Hello, Meoni here. Today I'm showcasing the 7.3 dungeon, the Meso Terminal's Armour. I got all these finally. It took me a while to collect all of the pieces. Starting with Fending then, it's fair to say that it's kind of disappointing that none of the pieces of armour from this dungeon are dyeable. However, they are unique. I do not believe they share models with anything else that's currently in the game, so I suppose that's a benefit. They're designed in the sort of design of that sort of ancient sort of Alexandrian sort of design, I guess you would say. Lots of gilt sort of metal on the helmet there, reminding me a little bit of sort of Victorian era British policeman slash fireman. We've got the shiny metal sort of greaves there as well, which yeah, it's kind of like a bit of medieval, a bit of Victorian sort of mashed together with some felt. The trousers underneath, there's the bottoms, look, with the silver stars on a black set of fabric. It's not a bad looking set. It's not my favorite. I do wish that dyeability was a thing for these dungeon pieces. Unfortunately, it is not. And of course, there's the maiming set as well, which is basically just a one-to-one recolor. It is a recolor of the Fending set, and it's black sort of metal with a red gem in the center of the helm and a red plume as opposed to a white one from the Fending set. We've got that sort of interlaid sort of twiny kind of thing going on there on the sleeves, making diamond shapes with the black and gold. The leggings underneath are brown with those silver stars and buckles. Nothing too much to write home about there. It's a nice set, I suppose, but I can't for the life of me think of a situation where I would use this. Now we're moving on to striking then, which is a striking difference. It's quite nice actually, this. I could definitely use parts of this. It reminds me of some of the Skyrat stuff a little bit, or something that you would imagine an adventurer to use. It's got an eye patch that appears to be covering permanently your left eye. It does clip with various different hair. The top is probably the main attraction though. It's really quite nice, sort of like a pleated robe that sort of goes out from a jacket with little straps. And we've also got this dagger on the side there, which is quite nice. And it's got the emblem, obviously, of Alexandria there on both the gloves and the blade itself. Got a nice bit of reflection on that felt for that sort of robed section around the waist. The actual legs then underneath this are quite interesting. They are the first unique one that's worth panning around out of the Fending and maiming sets, not being any different behind. Got this little patch with the Alexandrian symbol, the crest on the hip there, which is quite nice. And the boots are quite nice as well. They're like sort of leather wayfarers sort of boots, which are quite nice with the sort of loose leather straps there as well, or laces. It's not a bad set. It's probably one of the better ones from this, but it is still not my favorite from this. Moving on to my favorite then, this is the aiming set. When I first saw this, I immediately thought of the Three Musketeers, and it definitely has those vibes. We've got that kind of big plumed hat there, which is the equivalent of what sort of like a cowboy hat. I'm not really sure what you would describe that as. It's quite nice, isn't it? Sort of conquistador kind of thing going on there. Spanish Inquisition maybe. We've got a gold pin there that's nicely framed with the red plume and that blue band around the top. It would again be lovely to have a dyeable version of this in the future. On the actual chest piece, we've got this long robed section full of designs, Alexandrian themes, as well as on the right shoulder as well. The gloves are quite pretty nice. They're fairly basic, but they've got that kind of sort of wheat design going around them. The legs just have this two-tone pattern with a sort of gilt pattern going down with the same sort of signography as what we've got on the gloves. And then the boots are quite nice as well. They're slightly different. They're sort of flared top, ankle flared boots with a single buckle in the center. Yeah, it's definitely sort of Three Musketeers vibes, isn't it, that one? And I can think of several reasons why this should have been given to ranged caster instead of ranged physical, mostly because we can't use a foil on a bard, which is a real shame. Yeah, it would have worked probably a lot better as a red mage outfit. Moving on then to our scouting set, which is basically like the striking set. It's a redesign, recolor for the most part. There's not very many differences, mostly in just coloration. I think there might be a couple of straps that are different. Again, we've got that left side eye cover, that eye patch, and then we've got this beautiful sort of burgundy red with a sort of Dalamud red with the straps there as well on the chest piece. And we've got a silver dagger, silver hilted dagger rather than a gold hilted dagger, with a much nicer, sort of easier to see design for that Alexandrian emblem, I think. And the gloves have this sort of brass Alexandrian emblem in the middle of that leather sort of gauntlet, which is quite cool actually. And then, of course, we've got that reflective sort of felt again. For the legs, they are pretty much exactly the same as the striking ones. They are just black, and they have a slightly different inlaid design for the Alexandrian emblem. Very cool stuff. You wouldn't see these normally if it wasn't for the fact showing them separately. The boots are a little bit different than the aiming ones. They're a lot longer. They do have those sort of laces loose, but they are basically just the striking boots. It's not a bad set, honestly. I could definitely use the chest piece with other items to make something that looks quite good. Apart from that, I'm not sure if the other pieces would have the same mileage. Moving on to our healer first then. Healer and caster is our last section. This surprised me. We've got a turban at the top there, and we've also got kind of this long robe. A lot of people probably will not like the robe. We've had 1,000,001 robe designs like this in the game. It's kind of surprising we've got another. The helm is an interesting one. Out of all of the helms, only the casting and healing helms have a visor command, which is really surprising. As you can see here, we're doing /visor, or the button on the actual character UI panel. And it actually toggles quite a significant amount of that visor away. It's like a face covering as well as a back of head covering, which is really quite interesting. I thought that the tank one would have that, but it doesn't. Neither does the maiming or any of the others. So I guess there's that as a little bonus. It still doesn't make up for the fact that it's, you know, not dyeable. The robe is fairly generic. It's got some nice patterning. The gloves are, yeah, they're pretty short. They cut off exactly at that point, so there's no point in showing them separately. They just cut off at that wrist point. The legs are different. Kind of got that layered felt sort of thing going on there. And the boots are, well, yeah, we've kind of already got boots like that in the game. Nothing too crazy. I think when it comes to the sets, the caster and healer one probably is my least favorite out of all of them. At least with the tanking and maiming sets, you have some uniquity with the helmet. I'm not really a fan of this setup. We've seen it before. I'd like to see some more original designs. And here is caster, which is just a straight up recolor of the healing one. Obviously, we've got darker tones here rather than the brighter sort of yellowy mustard color that the healer one has. Sort of yellowy orange tassels. The helm, once again, is the same turban. And of course, this thing does have a toggleable visor option on it as well. We've got these silver coins or brass. I think they're sort of pitted brass, like silver coins around the top of the helm, with the visor command turning that whole section on and off. I'd like to see more helms have visor commands. It seems like there are so many other helms, especially in this dungeon set, that would benefit from the ability to toggle things off, including the eye patches for the scouting and striking. That would have been nice to see. The gloves, again, are those short wrist cutoffs, and the legs are basically the same as the healer ones, but they are darker color, right? That sort of soot black sort of design. Yeah, the boots are the same as well. We got that kind of darker color with sort of like a brown sole there as well. Not my cup of tea. Definitely not my cup of tea. As far as dungeon sets go, overall, I wasn't a massive fan of all of the sets, but my favorite from this by far is the Three Musketeers glamour, basically, that you could make. Again, very disappointing that this is not something that you can use on a caster, because if you could pull out your foil, you know, your rapier as a red mage, this would fit perfectly for that, but I don't know what else we could use as a bard or a machinist to pull it off, or a dancer. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think about 7.3 Dungeon for Meso Terminals Armor, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.